HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents The New Old Me, My Late Life Reinvention, by Meredith Maran, read by Christina Delaine. Sometimes I think it would be easier to avoid old age, to die young. But then you'd never complete your life, would you? You'd never wholly know you. Marilyn Monroe. The New Old Me begins with my move to Los Angeles and focuses on the 3 years that followed, not on what happened before. To protect other people's privacy and the integrity of the storytelling, I've compressed time frames, refrained from writing about my children, and altered identifying details and names. Part 1. Empty. Prologue. August 30th, 2012. When the knife slips, I feel nothing. Everything freezes. The knife, my breath, time. I go numb, dumb. I know that I've cut my finger, and I know that it's bad, but it's too soon for pain. I hold the ring finger of my right hand to my face, and I see things I shouldn't. Blood. Tendon. Is that bone? I grab a dish towel with my good hand and wrap it around my bleeding hand and thrust the mess into the air. Instinctively, I call out my wife's name. For 15 years, that's what I did whenever something terrible or wonderful happened. I called out my wife's name. My wife is 400 miles away, but old habits die hard. Nearest emergency room, I tell myself. Hurry! I don't know where the nearest hospital is, or how to get there. This is Los Angeles, not Manhattan, my childhood hometown of the geometric grid, not Oakland, where I lived for the past 30 years, with its numbered east-west avenues. I don't know where anything is, nor how to get there in LA's twisted gridlock of 4-lane streets and scrimmaging intersections. The nearest hospital, Siri tells me, is 15 minutes away. Everything in LA is 15 minutes away, the locals say, and it takes an hour to get there. The dish towel on my finger is soaked with blood already. I hope this time the locals are wrong. I replace the towel with a fresh one, grab my purse and my keys, maneuver my upraised arm, and then the rest of me into the driver's seat of my car. I don't want to be in the driver's seat of my car. I want to be in the passenger seat of my wife's car. I drive south on Silver Lake Boulevard, straight into the setting sun. At the intersection of Silver Lake and Sunset, Siri tells me to turn north. If I knew where north was, I wouldn't be talking to Siri. It's easier to turn left than right without the use of my right hand. I decide that north is left. I pass the sprawling Scientology campus on Sunset and pull into the ER's circular drive. A sign on the wall reads, "Drop-offs only, no parking." LA hiking trails have valets. Real estate open houses, ice cream parlors, boutiques. But not the ER, where a valet is actually needed, not here, where the not rich people go. I decide against arguing with the security guard that I'm both driver and patient, and therefore entitled to leave my car here while I drop myself off. I drive to the nearest garage, spin up and up and up the circular ramp, find a space on the 4th floor. I'm too dizzy to search for the elevator. I get dizzier, trudging down the urine-soaked stairwell, right hand held high. The ER doors slide open. I follow the receptionist's eyes to my right hand. Apparently the newspaper rule, "if it bleeds, it leads," also applies here. She jumps up, rushes me into a treatment room, and runs out. A tall, balding doctor appears, snapping on gloves, and then a nurse, her hands already gloved. Neither of them makes eye contact with me. Neither of them says a word. The nurse lowers my hand from above my head, removes the dish towel, and deposits it in the hazardous waste bin. She lines the doctor's lap with blue and white chucks and sets my right hand into his upturned palm. His hand and the chucks turn red. The doctor squints at my wedding ring. "We'll need to cut that off," he says. "You can't do that," I say. The doctor raises his eyebrows at me. I'm sure he sees plenty of crazies in this ER. How would he know I'm not one of them? Maybe I should tell him about the Dr. Phil moment I had yesterday, when I actually thought, it's time to move on with my life. And I looked at my wedding ring, wondering what it would feel like to take it off for the first time in a decade, to be me without it, without the story it used to tell, and then closed my eyes and pulled it off. I put the ring in my underwear drawer and closed the drawer. I looked at my left hand without my ring on it and put the ring back on. I unhooked the gold chain around my neck and hung the ring on the chain and looked at my left hand without my ring on it and took the ring off the chain and put it back on my finger. Problem identified. What I want is not to move on with my life. What I want is my old life back. How long, I wondered, will it take me to stop wanting that? Will I be 70, 80, 90, single and still wearing this wedding ring? Baby steps, I told myself, and put the ring on my right hand instead of my left. It felt weird, scary, sad, but also accurate. Not exactly married, not exactly not. I can't let you cut that ring off, I tell the doctor. He frowns. The nurse whisks the bloody chucks off his lap and replaces them with a clean set. I'm sure you cut wedding rings off all the time, I say. But my wife and I are separated. I'm still hoping. The doctor stares at me. There is a certain narrowing of his eyes, a certain clenching of his jaw. I realize that although it's 2012, and gay marriage is legal in 7 states, and we're in one of the world's gayest cities, this white-haired, white-faced man is not happy to be holding the hand of a woman who has a wife. I watch as his conscience kicks in, or the diversity training the hospital made him take, or the non-discrimination policies they require him to uphold. He reassembles his face. Too late. Message received. I've been gay in America long enough to know Rule 1. Physical safety above all. I don't want this guy to get sloppy on the job because he's sewing up a smart-ass, half-married, geriatric lesbian who doesn't even know which hand a wedding ring belongs on. I don't want to share any more of my innards with this doctor than the parts of me he's already holding. I won't tell him that until I got in my car and drove to Los Angeles 3 months ago, I thought I knew how the final phase of my life would go. And it didn't involve Los Angeles, let alone a solo trip to the Sunset Boulevard ER. I thought the choices I'd made had set me up for a sweet ride the rest of the way. Despite my boomer-appropriate countercultural predilections, I'd turned out to be a fair to middling grown-up. I'd surrounded myself with smart, loving people, saved money when I could and spent it frugally when I couldn't, worked hard at a career I loved and was good at, renovated a 3-story Victorian on the Oakland-Berkeley border and lived there, while its value tripled, for 23 years. Most auspiciously, I was ecstatically married, and I was sure I always would be. Let me try to get it off myself, I tell the doctor. He holds up my bleeding hand in the narrow space between our faces. You've cut yourself to the bone. If infection sets in, you could lose your finger. You could even go septic. Do you know what that means? Please, I say, let me try. I'll give you 15 minutes. Nurse Santos will help you. The doctor beckons to the nurse, and they both leave the room. Nurse Santos returns with an armful of supplies. She sets a plastic bucket of ice, a giant tube of KY jelly, and a pile of chucks on the tray in front of me. She plunges my finger into the bucket of ice, waits a few beats, pulls my finger out, slathers it with KY jelly, and hands it back to me. I close my eyes and I pull and twist and pull and twist. The ring is stuck. It's a vice grip tightening on my finger. It hurts like hell. The doctor reappears. "It's time," he says. "So, which would you rather keep? Your finger or your wedding ring?" As he speaks, Nurse Santos gathers up what remains of our efforts and assembles a workstation on the rolling table. A neat row of syringes, scissors, thread, and some unrecognizable, scary-looking instruments sealed in blue plastic bags. The doctor reaches for my hand. I grab it back. "Any jeweler will be able to fix that ring," the nurse says. The doctor rolls his shiny metal stool closer to me and grabs my right hand and shoves something cold and hard between my ring finger and my ring. I feel a sharp click. The nurse takes my hand before I can look at it. She sets a small plastic specimen jar next to me. The doctor's face floats near mine. He positions a syringe over my hand. "This will numb you," he says. "Then we'll sew you up." I turn away so I can't see what he's about to do. Instead, my eyes turn to the specimen jar. In it, the broken circle of my wedding ring. 1. May 20th, 2012. I stand in the living room of the house I've lived in for the past 23 years, trying to imagine what I'll need for the life that comes next. I raised 2 sons in this house, wrote 9 books, threw dozens of parties, earned and spent and lost money, celebrated birthdays from 38 to 60. For the last 15 years, I've lived here with the love of my life. What to take? Clothes. No matter where I end up living or what I end up doing, I'll need clothes. I climb the stairs to the attic, start grabbing armloads of hangers, trudging up and down stairs until my car is full. I move through the other rooms quickly, numbly, grabbing small things as I go. Curl gel, milk frother, Zoloft, Ambien, Ativan, potato scrubber, framed photographs of my kids, my friend Patricia, my wife and me. Many times in the past 3 years, I've tried on the idea of leaving. Each time I recoiled from the thought. Now that I'm doing it, I'm not 1 inch closer to wanting to go. I'm standing beside my packed car, nailed to the moment. There must be a way to save this marriage, I think for maybe the 5 millionth time. "Meredith?" My 77-year-old neighbor, Vanna, is taking her daily constitutional from her end of the block to ours. She peers into my car. "You ladies going on vacation?" she asks. "Just me," I answer. For better or for worse, I've always told pretty much everyone pretty much everything. Now only my wife, my family, and my closest friends know that I'm moving to L.A. I barely believe it myself. I hug Vanna goodbye. "Hurry back, you hear?" she says. Not gonna happen, I think. "Will do," I say, and I get in my car and go. Driving south through the barren moonscape that flanks Interstate 5, I flip through stations on my car radio, attempting to muffle my thoughts. Spanish-language stations, Jesus stations, bubblegum pop stations, static. The narrative in my head, though, is perfectly clear. My marriage is over. I say it out loud. Why is the question. The answer is, I don't know. My wife and I were the happiest couple anyone, including us, had ever known. I attributed most of our glory to her. In past relationships, I was a lover and a fighter. My wife was the keeper of our peace. She valued harmony above all things. She lived in a meadow, we always said. I lived in a cave. Why would I lure her into my darkness when she beckoned me toward wildflowers and light? Conflict between us was rare. When it happened, she simply stopped talking to me for an hour or a day. Then she'd crawl into bed beside me. "Let's make up," she'd purr. Gratefully, I'd take her into my arms. As the years went by, we bragged about it. 2 fights in 5 years. 3 fights in 10. The harmony felt so good, I never considered its consequences. I went on believing the story of us, the one we told and retold. I was perfect for her, and she was perfect for me, and we were perfectly happy in our perfect, friction-free marriage. Turns out, things that needed to be said were not said. Turns out that the price of harmony at all costs was high. Overnight, our beauty went ugly. No fighting one day, nothing but fighting the next. We tried marriage counseling, individual therapy, trial separations. There were tearful, transitory reconciliations, wrenching, angry letters left where love notes used to be, packed into each other's suitcases, slipped into the books we were reading, into each other's lingerie drawers. For 3 years we wrestled, trying to find our way back to each other, ourselves, the once magical us. Nothing worked. My self-confidence, never my strong suit, was flagging. My career was circling the drain. Interspersed with brief intervals of employment, I'd managed to eke out a living as a freelance writer for 45 years. But then 9/11 and the 2008 crash happened, and the magazine and book publishing businesses tanked, turning my income into a shadow of its former self. Despite my penchant for taking things personally, I knew that the problem wasn't mine alone. Writer friends were taking teaching jobs, if they could get them, moving to cheaper cities, marrying for health insurance and rent. None of those stopgaps was an option for me. Throughout 2011 and 2012, the cascade of catastrophes continued. On the first day of our 3rd trial separation, I got an email from my socially responsible investment advisor, copying my wife, informing us that she'd made an accounting error. The $80,000 she'd reported as the balance in my account actually belonged in my wife's. My balance was an even 0. Days of frantic forensic accounting failed to make my savings reappear. So when a miracle appeared in my inbox in the form of a copywriting job offer in Los Angeles, I didn't hesitate. A job 400 miles away wouldn't replace my savings or restore the joy I'd had and lost with my wife. But I needed money, and my wife and I needed a break. In a rare moment of unanimity, she and I agreed that I should take the job. I was sorrow-struck, not crazy. I walked through that one open door. I canceled my therapy appointments and my hiking dates and had my mail forwarded to my new office and arranged to crash with a Bay Area expat friend and her new Angelino man, and said goodbye to my friends and family. The farewell I dreaded most had been averted in the saddest possible way. Last night I'd gone to bed believing that something would happen between us before I left this morning. My wife would creep into the guest room bed with me during the night, or bring me tea in the morning, or call to me from our marriage bed. But no, I'd awakened early this morning to walls that rang with emptiness. When I went downstairs to check the driveway, I'd found that her car was gone. Driving. My phone rings. My wife, I think. "Where are you?" asks my best friend, Celia. It was Celia's house I ran to, the first time the fighting got bad enough for me to leave. The reason for my arrival on her doorstep was almost as hard on Celia as it was on me. She used to call my wife and me Mom and Mom, because being with us, she said, made her feel like a happy, secure child. On Highway 5, passing that disgusting cattle ranch. "So you did it," Celia says. "I'm doing it," I say. 3 hours later, my phone rings again. My wife. "Where are you?" asks my friend Emily. "In a smelly rest stop bathroom. About halfway there." "So you did it," Emily says. "I'm doing it," I say. Siri guides me off the freeway and into the steep switchback streets of Laurel Canyon. I wind through twisty, narrow streets, beaded with pink and purple bougainvillea and towering, fuzzy, phallic cacti, and under a sky so blue and a sun so yellow, they look like a first grader's rendering of sky and sun. I feel like I'm in another country, not the southern half of the same state. The houses and gardens and stone paths I drive by are labyrinthine, lush, boho mysterious, yet oddly familiar. Maybe I'm having memories of Laurel Canyon, one of my all-time favorite movies. Or maybe my kind of people, with my kind of funky style, live here. I've been so focused on what I'm losing moving to Los Angeles that I haven't considered what, besides a paycheck, I might gain. I realize now that I'm not just leaving someplace familiar. I'm also landing someplace new. The place that turned fairy tales into talkies and orange groves into the film factory for the world. The place where Norma Jean became Marilyn Monroe. Driving more slowly now, I turn left onto Lookout Mountain Avenue. "Your destination is on the right," Siri says. I stop in front of a fairy tale cottage draped in lime green grapevines, its arched door peeling teal paint, its front garden a jungle of overgrown lemon trees and sky-high agave spires and artichoke plants gone mad. I imagine Joni Mitchell, lady of this canyon, living here with Graham Nash, Crosby and Stills dropping by to jam. I maneuver my car into a parking space the shape of a fusilli, unfold my stiff, fusilli-shaped body, and step out into blinding sunlight. Like Marilyn Monroe and Joni Mitchell and legions of desperate dreamers before me, I've arrived. 2. Jules answers my knock with a distracted hug and a tinfoil-covered cardboard box under his arm. His face is kind and gentle, and unmoved by the sight of me, and no wonder. We barely know each other. Clara's the one who offered me their couch, and Clara's away for a month, visiting friends back east. "Jules gets lonely when I'm gone," she'd said when I'd called to beg the favor. "He'll be happy to have your company." "That'll make one of us," I'd said, and Clara had sighed, with empathy or with compassion fatigue. Until this moment, I haven't considered the reality of my new lifestyle. I'd be sharing a house with a guy I barely know. I've done that before, but never without sex involved. "Oh, hello, you're just in time." Jules steps out of his house, closing the door behind him. "Hello," I say. "In time for what?" "We'll unload your car when we get back," he says. "Follow me." I'm a hiker, but I have trouble keeping Jules' pace. "Thanks for letting me stay with you," I say. Of course," Jules says without inflection. It occurs to me that Clara might have overstated his willingness to have me around. Trotting to Jules' walk, I wonder if every hike I take for the rest of my life will remind me of my favorite ever hiking buddy, Patricia. She and I were the same age, both writers, moms, wives, and under-budgeted fashionistas. We had our differences, too. I didn't quite graduate high school. Patricia was a Chinese scholar, fluent in Mandarin and Cantonese. Brilliant, bitingly witty, and beautiful. She was chemo-bald the day we met at a writer's retreat, shocked to find each other wearing the same fleece jacket from the same obscure French line. Mine was black. Patricia's was a rich shade of olive green. "I almost bought it in that color," I said. "It's beautiful." "The black is easier to wear," she said. "You made a good call." Over dinner that night, Patricia told me calmly that she was several years past the life expectancy for her metastasized breast cancer. But her 14-year-old daughter, Maya, needed her, and so did her husband, Mark, and she had a book to finish. As long as she could, Patricia said, she was simply going to refuse to die. For the next few years, once or twice a week, Patricia and her Irish setter, Blue, and I would meet at the trailhead, often exchanging some item of clothing that one thought the other would like. After our brief parking lot fashion show, we'd huff and puff up and down the Redwood Mountains together, Blue gambling, Patricia and I dissecting the high-stakes struggles we shared, troubled childhoods, troubled marriages, troubled kids, troubled manuscripts. When my wife and I were at the start of our free fall, my wife joked to Patricia that if she ever broke a hiking date with me, our marriage would be over by the end of the day. It wasn't really a joke. My wife knew that Patricia spent hours explaining and defending my wife to me, because Patricia loved my wife, and she loved the way our marriage had been before it went bad, and, I realized later, Patricia probably knew she was dying, and she didn't want me to be alone when she did. Week after week, mile after mile, Patricia counseled me to be patient, to hear the love as well as the anger in the things my wife said to me, to find compassion in myself, even when my wife couldn't find it in herself or in me. The day after our hike one Tuesday in November 2011, Patricia landed in the hospital. "Your friend has the strongest will I've ever seen," her nurse told me when I took her aside to ask about Patricia's prognosis. "But at some point, the body wins." 2 months later, Patricia came home to die. I left Patricia's deathbed, and I got into bed in our guest room, and I didn't get up for a week. During that week, my wife never came into my room to comfort me, and I never sought her comfort, and after that it was no longer possible to deny or ignore how broken our marriage was. Looking back at it now, I see that the start of my life without Patricia was also the start of my single life. At Patricia's memorial, a musician friend played her favorite song, Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, and in his voice I heard Patricia's, her rare blend of brilliance and tenderness and rage, and I doubled over in my chair, sobbing. My wife put her hand on my back, and the gesture felt jarring to me, a habit or a public performance or a last shot of her love, a purge that would free her to rid herself of me. After Patricia died, I tried hiking alone. I tried hiking our trails with our mutual friends, wonderful writer women who missed her too. Conversations with these, not Patricias, made my ears ache.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?